Good evening, everyone. My name is Samantha Caruth. I am the Associate Director for Family Engagement on the new Student and Family Programs team, and we're so excited to bring to you a webinar from one of our amazing partners. I'm joined by Julia Gibson, who's supporting us with all the tech magic behind the scenes, and I want to kick off to our presenter today, Chaplain Eric Doolittle, who's presenting, and I know it's going to be a great conversation. And with that, I'll hand off to you, Chaplain Eric.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. And I appreciate all the folks who are putting a little time in tonight to learn a little more about what we do to support students in their belief and their faith and spiritual wellness and why that matters so much. So just a little bit about me. I am a elder in the United Methodist Church. Home for me is Appalachia in East Tennessee. I have about 20 years in ministry, most of that with young adults in campus settings. And so I like to say I've literally supported folks from atheists to Zoroastrians and everybody in between. It's one of those beautiful things about the background of the United Methodist Church is that they put me here to show love and care and concern and to help other people come along. And so I'm so glad to get to do that at American. I just started back in August of this year, and so I'm still learning a little bit, but it's been wonderful to get to be part of this community. And so with that, I will get into a little bit about what we do as part of, as the university chaplain, and then also what that looks like at K Spiritual Life Center. So for me, one of the pieces we do is we like to kind of look at the big questions of life. One of those big ones is why, and then we'll look at, once we kind of talk about why we do what we do, then we'll talk about what we do and what that looks like generally, and then we'll dive in a little bit more on specific questions that people might have. So with that, we'll start off with that big question of why, which is more than just a metaphysical question, although in this space we do deal with metaphysicals. We deal with those big questions and helping people find purpose and meaning and values and explore those ideas. And so I would just stop for a second and as we're getting into this and as we're kind of preparing, is to think about why are you here? Why is this important to you? What are you looking for in this time? And what are you looking for your student and who you're supporting in this? Um, that's an important question, I think, for all of us. I've got two college age students, one who's studying right now and one who will be coming in the fall. And we have those big questions for them in a way of how can we support them? How can we help them? How can we help them find meaning and purpose and values? And how can we help them find a connection to something that may be beyond them? And so that idea of why you are here supporting in that way is a really valuable question to ask yourself um, as we're trying to then support them the right way. Um, in these big ideas of meaning and values and beliefs and religion and faith, um, they are things that we desperately often want for our students, our children to connect with, but they have to figure that out for themselves. And so that's that piece of as you're gathering information, as you're helping with them, how you can help do that. And for students who are taking time to watch this, it's that question of why is this important to you? And what can you learn from this? And how is it going to build into who you want to be and the experience you want to have? So I think those are great questions for all of us to kind of think through as we're entering into this time. And so with that, I want to talk about why spiritual wellness matters. Um, it's kind of an unusual term because it's not something people always connect with higher ed. Not every college has spiritual wellness, but we're starting to see more and more folks lean into that as an understanding of how it's part of our whole being, our whole wellness, right? Holistic wellness. So spiritual wellness is lifted up in higher education as part of one of the 8 main areas of holistic wellness. Those are emotional, social, financial, occupational, spiritual, intellectual, physical, and environmental health. And as you think through those ideas, you might see how they're connected to each other and how one, if you're having problems with your emotional health, it may affect your social, right? If you're not feeling good about yourself, you may not want to put yourself out as much. If you're struggling intellectually, if your classes are really giving you a hard time, you may have problems with how you feel, right? And so all these things go together, heart, soul, strength, um, what's around us, who we are, how we take care of ourselves. And so that's part of what we look at is all those components coming together. There's been a lot of research and study about college students who, and there's a real sense of hopelessness and anxiety relating to the world around them, and much higher rates than what we've seen in previous generations. And spiritual wellness has been positively linked with um, 3 of the main indicators of well-being. And so happiness is a big one. Generally, people who are more connected, who feel more connected to specific religious or belief or faith tradition, are happier. They have a higher sense of life satisfaction, and they find that they have more meaning in life. Those are the 3 big indicators out of spiritual wellness. And I'm going to pause right there before I go on because you'll hear me use different terms kind of related to each other. Sometimes I'll say belief, I'll say religious identity or religious or faith. These are all different terms that we use here um, because we want to recognize that these things are defined internally in different ways. We tend to lean into belief here, so you'll hear me say interbelief instead of interfaith. Just recognizing that we may not all claim a sense of faith, which um, a sense of something other, right? Something divine. But generally, we all have beliefs, and we may or may not recognize that we're operating with those beliefs, but they are important to who we are and how we want to work in the world. So with that, there was a great study that came out in 2023 from Harvard, their Graduate School of Education, and they found that 45% of students have a general sense that things are falling apart. However, students who belong to a religious group, any religious group, were more likely to feel as though their lives has a sense of purpose, um, and meaning. And that difference was about 10 points between those who didn't feel that they were connected to a faith or a religion or a belief in that same way. And so there's a significant difference for folks who are struggling with a sense of, why does it all matter? Or is it going to be okay? Um, between those folks who are engaged in this kind of work intentionally and those folks who aren't. And so there's a real wellness benefit. And that's been seen across life as well. And so as you look at folks um, on measuring happiness and satisfaction in life, there's about a 4-point difference on average between folks who are involved in a religious tradition or faith tradition or a set of beliefs that they follow with those who aren't. And that goes with enjoyment, feeling happier, smiling more, feeling well rested, feeling satisfied with your life and the opportunity to meet people and to feel supported in community. The optimism index is higher. So, how do you feel about things are going to be in 5 years? Are things getting better? And even the what's called the community basics index, which is do I feel like I'm part of the world in connection? So that relates to us then in higher ed that we see that students who are engaged in spiritual wellness have higher retention rates. They have better mental and emotional health. They end up having a much better sense of belonging. They feel like they're a part of something, and they have a much better sense of meaning making and a sense of purpose. And those last two are really important. The first ones are the short-term things that we think of, like how do we get our students to succeed? How do we help them as they're here? How do we help them feel like they're belong, that they're supported, that they have the tools they need? But those last two, meaning making and purpose, those are really long-term effects. Those are pieces that people are going to follow for the rest of their lives. If you have a sense of purpose and meaning, it's going to help you in the long run feel like your life is good, that you're doing good in the world, that you're making a difference. Um, Strangely enough, there's a index that's out there that shows that when students who have a good sense of purpose and meaning for what they're doing first leave college, they actually feel not as happy as people who have been working more on, like, I'm working at a job and that job is what's important. But if you measure it out 10 years, it switches. Those people who have just been doing stuff for their job and for a career do not feel as satisfied as those who feel like they have a sense of deeper purpose and meaning. So it's basically, if you're doing what you love when you first leave school, you may not feel as satisfied in that because it's harder to find that fit. But as you go along, you have a better sense of why you do what you do, and that grows and grows. And so we're hoping to set up students not just to succeed here, but to really thrive in life. So the next why that I want to get into is, why does K Spiritual Life Center exist? So the K Spiritual Life Center is the space that we use and also the structure we use to support spiritual wellness and belief and purpose and meaning on campus. So let me just lift up the core values for K Spiritual Life, which are based in some of our histories. So I'll do these core values, and then I'll go into the history. So core values, I'm going to actually read these. I won't read everything I put up, but every human being has immeasurable worth. Every heart longs for connection. Every life possesses purpose, and everyone has a contribution to the world. And those come out of a deep sense of our values because of who brought us together and how we were formed. So American University was founded by Methodists in 1893, which is why we are still connected with the United Methodist Church today. We're affiliated with the United Methodist Church, but there's no obligation to any sort of creedal belief or any requirements for religion. This is something that helps the university understand who we are and how we want to do things. And then it helps us say that this is important for everyone to have an opportunity to experience. Again, there's no requirements, it's an opportunity for this. So when it was first founded, there was a gentleman, Bishop John Fletcher Hurst, and he wanted to specifically create a place, and I'll quote here, a place for the promotion of education and investigation open to people of all genders, all creeds, all races, and all conditions of life. So it really was from the very beginning a place that the Methodists were creating, but it was for everyone to take part of. And they've worked very intentionally to look at how do we do that and how can we do better at continuing to welcome people into this mission. When the college was dedicated in 1914, President Woodrow Wilson was the speaker, and he said, "The modern world needs, above all things else, comprehension, genuine mastery, and understanding. And that is not only an adventure of the mind, but an adventure of the heart as well." One of the things you'll hear over and over as people are talking about what AU does and how we do it is this idea of the mind and the heart, or the head and the heart, that these things go together. And that goes back into that idea of having a sense of beliefs, but a sense of values, a sense of purpose, and a sense of meaning. And so as we practice those things and understand them, we invite others to find that for themselves and what they want to do and how they want to have that adventure. When K Spiritual Life Center first opened in 1963, it was one of the first interfaith chapels in higher education. And it was originally a collaboration between the Methodists, the Episcopals, the Catholics, and the Jewish communities in DC. And Abraham Kay, who the center is named for, would say at the dedication uh, of the center, this really beautiful phrase that you'll hear is echoed again in our core values. He said, "In facing the challenge of today's world, we shall be strengthened in our morale, if we can transmit to the maturing minds of each generation the basic ideas of the sanctity of each human being and his or her equality before God. For this is the faith that unites us all." And that idea that everyone has worth, that everyone has a place, that everyone can be formed in this space, still promotes and moves us forward in why we do what we do. So with that, let me get into a little bit of the what we do. The first little piece is that's you can see me out front of K Spiritual Life Center, affectionately called the Flaming Cupcake. For those of you who haven't seen it or heard that phrase before, you can see the building in the background and how it got that name. We lean into that around here, and I'll use that here in a minute to help kind of explain how we do things. So there's the Office of the Chaplain, which is what I do. And then K Spiritual Life Center is one of the things I get to do. So the University Chaplain, a big part of what I do is talk about these values and traditions and help our connection to the United Methodist Church and help people understand that by promoting personal investment in holistic wellness and encouraging engaged social practices in beliefs and faith. And so I'm really here in a larger way, in the biggest sense, to help everyone trying to engage these things, these ideas, these purposes, and to continue to promote those, and then to work on our affiliation to why that relates to the United Methodist Church. And so one of the things I get to do is to talk about kind of a moral voice to the university and to the leadership, to be able to speak out about our larger values and are we living them out. I get to be a pastoral resource. I'm a confidential resource. If students come to me as in that way, it's only me and the folks in the Wellness Center who are the Wellbeing Center, pardon me, the Wellbeing Center, who are confidential resources. So students can always come to me as the university chaplain and talk, and not have to worry about how that is shared. I also work on policies and procedures around religious and cultural accommodations. So as we're looking at coming into the spring season, we have a lot of religious holy days that are coming up, and students will be looking to accommodate, can I get prayer time during at sundown for Ramadan, for example, or I'm going to miss a class because of the Passover. And so that's part of what we do here to help students find those pieces. And then finally, like I said, I'm the director of the K Spiritual Life Center, which we'll get into right now. So K Spiritual Life Center, there it is from across the way. K Spiritual Life Center holds and creates space for people of all beliefs to kindle their hearts, ignite their purpose, and illuminate the world. And we do that by creating a sense of space, right? We hold space for people. K is a physical space, and we have spaces inside of it that help people find ways to connect and practice their beliefs and values. So we'll get into a little more what that means. We have people. We have 24, about 24 different groups that relate to us, and I'll get into some of those that help us do the work that we do. We are a resource for that adventure of the heart, right? That there comes a time when those big questions of why am I doing this? What's all this worth? What am I hoping to do with my life? Those types of questions come up. And so that's that adventure of the heart that as students learn that piece of that inspiration, right? That breathing in, that is a place that we can help them kind of work through those things, and especially in a way that they're not being judged, they're not being graded, they're not being scored. Like we're just here to be there and be present with them. And then finally, we want them to become active participants in transforming the world for good. I have an old quote that I like that says, we want to do good and do well. We want to be able to do both. So that's a little bit about what we try to do here at K. And then let's get into a little bit about how we do it. So this is a diagram. excuse the artist. He just put this together for this presentation. I'll get a fancier version later. But I thought we could just lean into this cupcake idea for how the structure of K spiritual life works. Um, so it's our flaming cupcake again. So what I want to talk about then is you'll see that most of what people think about when they think about a cupcake is the cake, which is great. And they might notice that. So that's our community partners and volunteers. Those are the people who help us do what we do. The wrapper, of course, is this space that we hold, this fun little outside K spiritual life. And so we'll look at what that is and what's in our building. The frosting is the different types of programs that we run, some of them internally and some of them through our partners. And then the sprinkles are just the extra stuff. And what people often forget is that I made it a filled cupcake because we do have staff that's here. It's a small staff. There's two of us who are full-time as far as employees of the university, but we have all these partners that we work with. And so we're kind of the extra little part in the middle that sometimes gets overlooked, but definitely make it worth the while. So let's work through this cupcake. So the first one is and how we do it. Let's look at the spaces of K. So K Spiritual Life Center has 5 main spaces that we have. Our main chapel is the one there with the stained glass. It seats about 200. It is a kind of a traditional looking space. There are some things to note, like there are no specific religious symbols in the main chapel. That's intentional from the very beginning, that anyone can come into that space and feel like they can make it their home. And so each of our groups, as they are leading worship or leading services or gatherings in that, have the ability to bring their stuff into there. There's actually storage nearby. And so when we set up for Shabbat, they bring out the Torah scroll, they bring out the worship stuff, they set it all up on Friday, and then when they're done, they can store it away. And then on Sunday, the Catholic group goes into the sacristy and brings out the altar and brings out their different art that they use, and they prepare for communion. And so it's really fascinating how that works over time. We have 4 other spaces right now in the chapel that are also available. In the, let's see, top left is our Muslim prayer room. That's on the lower floor here in K, and it gets a pretty good use. Because of the prayer cycle of our Muslim students, we see them frequently in and out of this space. There are other spaces on campus they can use, but this is definitely a space that they love to come into because we are right here on the quad. It makes it really easy for them to access midday and at the end of the day. Below that is the Thomas More Catholic Chapel. That's the one with the cross in it. And so that is one of our original rooms, and we're really glad that we still have that. That is it's an adoration chapel, so it does has a place for the reservation of the sacraments. The Dharmic space is the upper right, and so that is a newer space for us. It is set up for our Buddhist, and I've forgotten the other Dharmic tradition. Oh my goodness. Oh, Morgan will get mad at me. I should have put on my notes. Anyhow, and so that is actually a consecrated space for those folks coming from the Dharmic tradition. So you'll see there's we're really proud of that space. It came online. We beat Georgetown by 2 weeks for having our Dharmic space set up, just because we knew they were working on it and we didn't have as much work to do. And so it's actually one of the first Dharmic spaces in higher ed that was set up. And then the last one's our newest space, which is the one with the bottom right. That's our contemplative corner. We recognize that with these spaces, there was still a need for other groups and other students who came from smaller traditions, who may not have a dedicated space, to still have a room that they felt like they were welcome in. And so our contemplative corner is our newest one. And we just brought that online this spring because of the work of my associate director at Morgan. So that's mostly the upper level. And then on the lower level is our space for our office, and we have a lounge. The lounge has can comfortably put 40 or 50 in there. So a lot of our communities, they'll do at least once a week, they'll do some sort of a service that then has a meal or a reception or something like that afterwards. And then the different registered student orgs and things may do classes or seminars. On Friday, we actually use the lounge because for Juma because the prayer room isn't quite big enough, and we have about 40 or 50 students who are coming for Juma. And so it's a very, very active space for what we do. So that's what we do there, um, or how we do it. The next one I want to talk about is our affiliates. And so we have, again, kind of a layered system of that we have what we call community partners. Our community partners are generally sponsored either by a local or national organization. So they have full access to what we do. They put on lots of programming and lots of things. Um, I think I can't remember if I talk about this later or not, but over the course of a week in the space, because of the work of our community partners, we have 14 worship services over the course of each week, and so it's a really, really active space, and it really does rotate. But the every night there's 2 or 3 different types of things going on. So our community partners right now are Campus Outreach, Chabad, uh, AU Catholic, Crew. We have a brand new FCA group, that's Fellowship of Christian Athletes, a Hillel, a humanist community. And so humanists are kind of atheist agnostics, if you don't know humanists, and then United Methodists. So those are our community partners who are sponsored by different organizations that we relate to, and they kind of have the most robust presence. We also are intentional at having some folks who volunteer with us, who fill in for some communities that we may not have specific partners with. So we have a Buddhist insight meditation group. The Muslim community is run through a volunteer right now. And so we're looking at how that might work, but it's been going really well. We have very active students who are helping us move along and to make sure we're getting things done. And then there's a Quaker community that meets. So those are the top two. And then registered student organizations, if you're doing any of these webinars and things, you'll hear more about how our different student organizations are on campus. We have a ton of them and so many different opportunities. We do have about a dozen student organizations that have some sort of a faith belief or maybe a religious, culturally religious tie to them. Those include Catholic students, the Chabad. Um, there's a gospel choir that's part of this. Gospel choir is really fun because they are a student group, and you can also take it for a class. And so we're glad to sponsor them and have them home. I was actually mentioning before we started that you may hear them at some point as we're doing this. I don't think we'll quite get to that point, but if you hear music, that's them getting ready. A Hindu students group, an interfaith club, a Jewish student association, Muslim student association, Native American Indigenous students, Sikh student association, and we also have a coven for our pagan and our neo-pagan and Wicca folks. And then we also have resources that we can connect students to out into our community if they're not finding something specific or they want to be more intentionally engaged with the church, not just on campus. We have a whole list of different groups that we can connect them with that we maintain very close relationships back and forth. And so that can be everything from National Presbyterian, St. Sophia's Greek Orthodox, National Cathedral, friends meetings, so lots and lots of different places we can plug people in that. So that's kind of the different ways how we kind of make stuff work for all the different things. Over the course of a year, we have about 1,000 different events that happen through our community groups, partners, student orgs. So if your students are saying there's nothing to do, just say, hey, have you been by K? Because we got stuff going on, and that I know that's everywhere. And so talking a little bit about kind of what we do, some of the programming that we hold. I said we do 14 worship services a week, about 500 programs a semester. Those are worship services, but also dinners, small group studies, lectures, retreats, and a lot of those are through those different partners and student orgs. K Spiritual Life does sponsor a couple of fun things intentionally. We have a weekly tea time, which most people know because you can come get a cupcake. Again, we lean into it. So every Tuesday at 2, people come by and get tea and a cupcake, and that's just come by and say hi. We'd love to welcome people on that. We have about once a month, we have a meal of some sort, either an inner belief dinner where we're working with one of our student groups or our partners to celebrate a holy day and have a dinner with that, specifically open to the community so people have more ideas and to support them. We also have what's called the Food for Thought series, which is a conversation based where we will look more at a topic and then see how it ties into our different traditions. And so it's a way we look across in that way instead of vertically. And then we have a couple of special services, the Bruce Pointer Lecture, which talks about the intersection of engagement in the world and service because of belief and faith. And then we're about to do our Black History Month MLK Legacy Service. That's coming up on the 26th. It was supposed to be Wednesday, but we got snowed out. So we're looking forward to that. Some extra sprinkles of fun, right? The top of that cupcake. The Unity Walk, where we work with the Interfaith League of Washington and actually go down Massachusetts Avenue. There's, I think, a dozen different houses of worship and communities that open up their space. And that's yeah, just an incredible time to see all these different communities and how they intersect and get to go in and see a space you might not see. So you start up at the top. It's actually the congregation, the Jewish congregation. So synagogue is at the top, and they end up down at the Washington Islamic Center, and everything in between. So it's a great opportunity for folks to see what that could be. I do regular coffee hours, so students can just catch me at the bridge and say hi, just hanging out. So making sure I'm available. This extra things we did this year, we do a Dia de los Muertos ofrenda, and then we also have the gospel choir Christmas concert that we did this year. And so that some of those are every year, some of them are one-offs, but there's lots of fun ways that we try to get people to say, oh, this sounds like something I haven't done before, right? And maybe I'll just try that out. So we're always trying to kind of give some fun ways to people to see something new and see what that might mean for them. And then I talked about our staff. The the pictures there, that is Morgan is in the black on the left-hand picture. She's the associate director here. That's all of us out having fun at tea time. And Mariama is our GA. And so she has been a wonderful new addition to our team. Some of the things that we do as the team, as the staff, again, as I mentioned, we work on accommodations, but also we work on advocacy. And so we put together the Holy Day calendar that the university uses, and then we help kind of figure out the additional parts. If people are feeling a need or they're feeling pressure or not getting the answers they need, we can help them come alongside them and figure that out. And so we do that with dining and housing. And then I'm also on the President's Council on Diversity and Inclusion, again, to make sure that that spiritual identity, that religious identity that's so important to some of our students, it has a voice in that space, that we're paying attention to that when we're making big decisions. We also do a lot of space reservations. Our building is very active. And so with our programs, with events, with religious ceremonies, and we even get weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs. Matter of fact, last week we had a bris because one of our Hillel staff members just had a baby. And so we got to do that. And I think I heard, yeah, the Father Ivan, who's our Catholic priest, said that they're going to be doing a baptism in 2 weeks. So it's really a very active space. And then the last part we do is we have some scholarship work that we do and some awards that are available to help recognize the great work that folks are doing. And so that's kind of the overview of what we do. So I'll wrap up by just kind of giving a couple of takeaways. If you're like, what did he talk about? Here's what I hope you heard. One, spiritual wellness is important. It's important to retention and success as a campus, and it's important long term to help develop a sense of purpose in life. And so we really do see over and over again how it helps students right now and how it helps graduates figure out life. Because I have been doing this for so long, it's a great joy to have students come back to me, especially those who the ones who I expect are great, and I love to hear what they're doing and what they're into, but it's the ones who just maybe touched a little bit into our space and who come back and say, you said this one thing one time and it really made me think, and it has helped me understand who I want to be. And that just means the world to get to have that kind of impact on somebody who they now understand what they're looking for, and then help them figure that out in their lives. The second thing, and this is so important because it's probably one of the biggest misunderstandings people have, is everyone is welcome at K Spiritual Life Center. We literally have agnostics and atheists and people from all different belief traditions and people who are trying to figure it out, and people who feel excluded and marginalized and may have had real harm done by religious communities. We do not, we are here to welcome everyone at K Spiritual Life Center. And I take that very seriously, and as part of my mission for what I do, for who I want to be. And so I want you all to hear that, and please pass that along, that it's not something we're here to proselytize. We're not here to evangelize. We're not here to 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 make people feel guilty or bad. We're here to help people and to hopefully show them love and concern because they're precious. They have dignity and worth because they are. And we're here to help them wrestle with what that means. And so they can ask us questions, and maybe we can help give some resources that help them figure out those answers. And then that last one is K Spiritual Life Center has resources for students from almost every belief, faith, and religious identity. And I put the caveat in there because there's always somebody who surprises me, which is great. We have a student right now who came in looking for a space to practice their tradition, and it's a kind of a tribal tradition that's somewhat related to Hinduism, but it is not Hinduism. It's only practiced in one of the I think it's Kazakhstan, that she learned from her grandfather directly, and she's never met anyone else who practice it. But she has this sense of this is important to her, and so we worked with her to find a space because that goes back to number two. Everyone is welcome in K. And so I think that's everything that I wanted to be able to say. So thanks for your patience. And I will put up, if you want to get in touch with us, feel free to shoot me. You can follow us on Instagram. We have a pretty robust presence there. You can go on to the website. It is student affairs/K, but if you just put K Spiritual Life Center at American or KSLC, it comes right up. And if you have any questions for us, that's the staff email here for K Spiritual Life Center at american.edu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chaplain Eric. Maybe we have time, a couple of minutes for a question or two. Would that be
Absolutely.
okay? I see a question that's come in on the Q&A tab. So this family member says, my student is a senior. She feels that her Hindu faith is misunderstood. And others on campus don't seem to appreciate her Hinduism. How can she kind of feel supported? What can she do to feel more comfortable? She is a senior and she's hopeful to continue on as a graduate student at AU. So how can she
Oh,
feel
great.
supported and appreciated, and be able to share her faith rather than kind of make it acceptable for others?
Yeah. Yeah. And that is a really tough one, because one of the pieces that, as I've come in, recognize, like, how do we do a better job of not just supporting our students, but helping other people understand this, right? There's a lot of gap of understanding and knowledge about religions and faiths and how they're practiced. I think a lot of that comes in the gaps of what the experience is with the education system before they get here. Not everybody gets to go to a school that does like a world religions class or something like that, and it's so important in the world. So that is something we're trying to figure out, is how we can be a better resource across campus to help elevate those conversations and to help people understand those better. Hopefully your student has connected with the Hindu Student Association. I know we are planning right now. I haven't got a date yet, but I know we're planning our interfaith, our interbelief dinner with Holy, which is something that we've done every year. And we do the for those many of the holidays. I won't say all of the holidays because it depends on where it falls and how students have time and things, but we often have a larger, instead of just inside the dharmic space, well, actually, they'll do the puja in the main space. And so that's something I got to be part of when we did Diwali back in the fall. And so hopefully, if your student hasn't connected with HSA, please encourage that. And then have them reach out to me. We want to hear these kinds of things. It helps me be able to advocate with them and also to help them find resources that they can use so they don't feel like they're having to explain themselves all the time. Because that is a large burden that our students who are coming from um, non-Christian, right? Like that's the reality of our society, and is that people kind of default to that kind of thinking. And so I think that's a really vital question. And so I would love to talk with your student and hear how we might be able to support, I think it was her better. I don't have the question and answer in front of me and I'm not going to try because I'm not that good at technology. But I would love to have a conversation with your students. So please encourage them to reach out to me, to HSA, or just stop by K and check out the dharmic space and have a moment that they can feel like they have a space that they feel familiar with that is going to feel, that makes a big difference in a person's life.
Thank you for that. I hopefully the member who's on, parent who's on, feel free to use the resources right in front of you. Encourage your student to do that and know that there's a whole community for your student to kind of deepen their connection with on this level. And then I think the next thing that we have posted is not a question, it's a statement. It's from parent. Thank you so much for supporting our students and meeting them where they are spiritually. So that's for you, Chaplain Eric.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure. I love what I do, or I wouldn't be in it still.
Great. Thank yous are coming in. Thank you so much, Chaplain Eric. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. I think it's perfect time to close so folks can get back to their evenings. If you're on the East Coast or otherwise, the rest of your day, if you're in another time zone, this is just a reminder page for new student family programs on my department. And we're here to support families. I'm also a parent of one college student, one who has just graduated from other institutions. But yes, we are all living a similar experience of how to empower our students to take the lead as we support them from the wings. So thank you again for joining us this evening. Thank you, Chaplain Eric. Thank you, Julia. And good night, everyone. Look forward to seeing you on the next webinar and at upcoming activities. Enjoy the evening. Good night.